to Women Entrepreneur Talk Part 2 by Startup Byte. And today we'll be talking with Nishtha Tripathi. She is the author of one of the best selling books on Indian startups, No Shortcuts. And also, she's been part of many other startups herself. Being an entrepreneur, she has a lot to share with us. So I'm really glad that I'm talking to her. By the way, my name is Vaidehi. I'm your host for the day. I am a founder of Alter Ego, and it is my pleasure to be here and talk to Nishtha. Let me give you a brief introduction. She'll be talking more about herself and her journey. But to tell you a little bit about her, she is, like I said, author of a book called No Shortcuts. Make sure to read it. It's really good. She's also a founder of many ventures herself. One of the prominent startup is Scholar Strategy. I'll be asking more about that when I talk to her. She's also co-founder of Quizler, founder of Fedzi. Man, so many names to name. But first thing that when I got to know about her, the first thing that I noticed in her profile, apart from her so many adventures, is that she is NYU Stern dropout. So that is something that intrigued me, and I wondered, why would a person enrolled in a prestigious institution like NYU Stern leave that institution willingly? So I was just very curious about that. And Nishtha, if you could, before we get into your adventures as an entrepreneur, could you please give us a backstory of how
Sure,
that happened?
sure. First of all, like a big thanks to Startup Byte and thank you, Vaidehi, for taking out this time. I'm this is my first live video, so I'm kind of nervous, maybe, but
Same here.
I'll try to stay sane. so, uh, so yeah, a lot of people are actually curious about my MBA dropout thing, and I think this will give me a good platform to talk about it. So the reason being was that, and I often say that MBA is kind of a anyone's terminal degree in their career, and I believe that it should be done when you have a very clear vision of what you want to get out of MBA. And
Yes.
so when I joined MBA, my reason was very clear that I was already in tech career for some time. At that point, I was working in Wall Street in a tech role, and as a tech engineer person, your worldview becomes very unidimensional. And I
Okay.
felt like, and this was also time, like, I was working there around 2008 2009, when like Wall Street was on decline and we were hearing of Mark Zuckerberg, Jack Dorsey,
Of
startups like
course.
Facebook and Twitter. And so I was very, very curious and intrigued by those things, and I wanted to be a part of that excitement rather than a industry which was going down. And frankly, I was like, working on Wall Street did nothing, like it wasn't too exciting for me. So after a while, I knew that I am more of a creator kind of a person. I would love to create something of my own someday. But then I realized that I hardly know anything about the business aspects. Like as an engineer, you don't know accounting, you don't know what financing is, what is debt versus equity
Absolutely, I agree.
concept, and all those things. So I felt like that point MBA made sense for me, so that I could get an understanding of the business aspects. So I decided to apply, and I got into NYU, but I was very clear from day one that I wanted to get into startups.
Okay.
So that's what I was recruiting
Let me
for.
just, if I can ask you, why
Yeah.
at that point of time, why did you feel that you wanted to become part of the startup community or startup ecosystem? What
Right.
was something
Right.
that
So
was going through your head?
yeah, as I mentioned, so this is 2008, 2009. The Wall Street is already seeing the financial meltdown after the
Yeah,
housing crisis. And I also noticed that when you are in a finance industry or any other industry and you are in a tech role, you are in a secondary role. Like the
yeah,
tech is not the revenue bringer for the banks, as opposed to you working in a Google where you are
yeah.
directly contributing to the revenue. So your role would be much more exciting. So this is
Yes,
another lesson. So I learned that being a techie and working in a Wall Street is never going to make me feel fulfilled.
yeah,
And as I said, I'm a creator kind of a person, so I get very restless doing mundane jobs. So although the career growth seemed pretty nice on Wall Street, I was earning pretty well. It was a very, very selective program in one of the top banks. But I did not see myself being happy there 10 years down the line, for example. So I was getting more and more restless, and I was seeing the startup energy coming up in New York. Like New York,
Yeah.
which was known more for financial industry, was seeing like Foursquare and some other startups were coming up, and you could see that, hey, something exciting is happening, and you feel like you are being left out. You want to be a
Yeah.
part of that. So that was my clarification, and that was my reason that yes, I don't understand much about this thing, but I would love to know more about it. So that
Okay.
is why I was clear, and I was going to meetups and all. I was meeting people, I was meeting entrepreneurs, and they were super smart people. So I wanted to get into that thing, and I felt that MBA could be a good bridge to transition that gap. So that is how I joined MBA, and then I was solely focused on entrepreneurship, taking up startup classes. I organized their first entrepreneurship summit, in which we invited Seth Godin and many people like that. So I was networking a lot, and fortunately, I did a lot of unpaid internships and everything. It all led me to getting a very good job offer at the end of first year itself. So I
Okay.
decided to take a call that, like, this is a job market where people are not even getting jobs upon graduation. And this is an exciting startup. It was started by two Harvard alum who had come from Blackstone, super smart people. And they had just raised their first round of funding, and they decided to make an offer to me. So I have been good at like taking calculated risks in my career. So I felt it was worth a shot. So I decided to drop out of the MBA program at that point.
Okay. And is that when you had the idea for Scholar Strategy yourself, or it was later
Yeah,
in
no, not at all. I had not. So I joined the startup. I worked there for a year. I learned a lot there. And then I was like, eventually, someday I want to be back in India and start my own startup. So I just had that notion, and I had a very vague idea of a fashion rental startup, which became
Okay.
Festsea, which was an idea inspired from, if you see a company called Rent the Runway. It's a New
Okay.
York based startup. It's much bigger now, but it had just started in those days. And the concept was you can rent out your expensive dresses, because you buy them, and then,
Oh,
like,
okay.
for example, in wedding seasons we buy expensive clothing, and then we are not wearing them more than twice, maximum
Absolutely. It's
thrice.
one and done kind of thing.
Right, and they are
Yeah.
in good quality. So my idea was that we will create a platform to rent out those kind of dresses. So that was a vague idea I had, but I was like, you have to take a leap. Like, some point of time, you have to take the call. So in 2012, I came back to India, and that was vaguely the idea I had in mind at that point. Scholar Strategy was nowhere on the scene.
So what led you to Scholar Strategy, basically?
Right. Right. So when I started this fashion rental startup, soon I realized that it was not getting anywhere.
Okay.
And as a first time entrepreneur, you are always in denial. That you will think that
Always, always.
always in denial, right? So you are seeing some signs, you know that things are not working out, you're not even
Yeah.
feeling the energy to work on it, but you will be like, oh, no, 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 let us keep moving, kind of thing. So it takes a long time to call it quits the first time. So I
Was
was
it
dragging
hard for
it.
you to call it quits? Was it hard for, like, because for me
Yeah.
sometimes it happens ki I started it, how do I call it quits now? What will
Yes,
people
yes.
say? All those things go through
Yeah,
my mind. And was it
absolutely.
hard for you as well
It
to
was
say,
hard because
okay,
it was
I'm done?
like I left this high paying job. I have done these glamorous things in US. I'm now back in a tier 2 city in India, and my startup is also not working, and I'm not ready to
Exactly.
take a job. What the hell am I doing, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, it's always a scary call. So that
So
was
then,
not going anywhere,
yeah.
and so I knew that, like, even if it works out, it's going to take some time. So, meanwhile, just to have some kind of cash flow coming in, I thought I'll start advising students
Okay.
on higher education, because see, I had done both MS and MBA. I had done GRE, GMAT. I had a very good idea of schools in US, so I thought I'll advise students, and it'll be a small thing. It'll be just a part time kind of a thing where I'll advise students. So that's how it started. That it will give me some cash flow as well while I focus on my other more exciting ideas. So that's how it started in
Okay.
2013. And I did try a couple of other startups as well, when I realized that So a couple of lessons from a Fest C there, which was the fashion rental startup. I realized that I'm not the right person for it. Frankly,
Okay.
I do think couple of startups are doing that today, and it will probably grow from here on. The market timing is also right, and it's going to catch up. But I realized that I was not the person for it. I'm not a very fashion oriented person. It does not keep me excited to talk about dresses or talking to designers, getting them to list their products on our website. That kind of thing was not coming naturally to me.
Okay.
So it was hard for me to sustain the momentum there when things were down. As opposed to now, when I work on scholar strategy, now when I write books or talk to students, I just derive energy from it. I really thrive on it. So education and this space is more right for me, and that I think many people don't realize.
Do you think that for every person there is like you said, your personality didn't match with the fashion
Yes,
industry or fashion startup? Do
right.
you think that each and every entrepreneur or all the people who aspire to become one have certain personality which matches with a certain thing, or
Yeah, I do believe in that. So my thing is that, like, people talk about you should have problem solving skills. I think
yeah,
what is a better skill to have is finding the right problem to solve. There are
yes,
a lot of problems to be solved in the market. You can get into food tech, you can get into education tech, you can get into fintech, but not everything is going to come more naturally to you and not feel exciting to you. So
yeah,
if you get into something which is like clashing with your inner nature, it does not align with your values and personality, eventually it's going to feel like a burden.
yes, I agree.
Worse than a job because you're not even getting a paycheck, right? So I do feel that one should introspect, and there are certain industries, certain domains which will be more exciting to you, so try to pick those.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you kind of already know what you like at the back of your mind or in your heart, sort of.
It
But
has come
you
from
are,
trial and error. If you take me back
yes,
in 2013, I did not know, so I was making these mistakes exactly, so which I'm trying to tell other people that hopefully they don't make it but it's hard.
and how is it working with prospective students? What is the trend that you see in India today? Are they more open towards entrepreneurship? What is the difference that you feel? You have worked in US in startup market. Now
Mm-hmm.
you're working in India in startup market. What is the difference that you see in both? And
Right.
obviously
So
students you use.
Yeah, so I'll address it in two parts. First of all, both Western startup ecosystem and Indian startup ecosystem are way different. The
Okay.
way we approach startups, our risk appetites of Indians are very different. So I had written a post on it as well. Like, Indians is a very saving oriented economy, right? You will think
Yes.
100 times before spending just to get some convenience. We don't spend on convenience. We
No.
will think, right? But US market
Absolutely.
will right. So I'm sure all entrepreneurs know that by now in India that it's extremely hard to make Indians pay for something just on the basis of convenience.
Yes.
But in US that thing works great. Like, if you are helping save them time, even if it's 10 minutes, they will be okay to pay like $20,
Okay.
$29 per month. But Indians will not be doing that. So you can't just so and I was just copy pasting idea from US at that point, which clearly did not work. So I do believe that even if you are inspired from an idea in West, when you bring it to India, you have to really really customize it to Indian mindset. Otherwise it
Okay.
will not succeed. And we are seeing a couple of good examples on that. Like, I really like how an academy has approached education tech. So instead of forcing people to pay for content, they have just built a platform where educators and learners are coming in, and they are like, they are able to scale, and eventually they can release like programs where their educators can get paid and all. But they
Yes.
have removed that friction of people coming online to learn, which other ed tech platforms are still struggling, I feel. So you will always have to understand Indian mindset and do it accordingly.
Okay.
And secondly, you asked about students. So mainly in scholar strategy, I deal with people who want to go for higher studies.
Okay.
So, but otherwise for the book, I did a lot of book tours, and I did events in IIT Mumbai, some colleges in Pune. There, I did talk to engineers and management students who are interested in startups. So there's definitely a rise. Like, let's say 10 years ago, it was very, very like not heard of, that people are going to try out a startup right after graduating, but now people
Yeah.
are trying that. And I think so that shows the kind of like the mainstream nature of startups these days. Like I think I opened my book with a statement that Indian society, you are seeing people going for a son-in-law who's an entrepreneur. So
Yeah.
like, that is kind of a signal that it's accepted into the mainstream right now, which was not the case. But it has come with both pros and cons, right? Because if people are taking that as a shortcut to glamour, success,
Uh-huh.
or
Yeah.
quick way to get rich, then that's going to backfire.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we are
Because
far from that maturity point, but it's good to see enthusiasm building up.
amazing. So, going beyond, little bit beyond scholar strategy,
Mm-hmm.
you were and are also involved in many other entrepreneurial and startup ventures. So, if you
Mm-hmm.
can briefly tell us about those and how you came to be in those positions or those co-founding positions.
Sure. So I mentioned that I tried three startups before Scholar Strategy took off, and right now I'm focusing entirely on Scholar Strategy. I'm advising a couple of entrepreneurs, that is completely on site, but my main focus is Scholar Strategy. And so I identify myself as equally an entrepreneur as well as a writer. I'm a passionate writer. That's why I've been writing books. So I think the best thing I've done is I've set up this lifestyle where I can work for 6 months and I travel and write for 6 months. So
Amazing.
Scholar Strategy, being a higher education kind of space, is a seasonal business. So
Yes.
it keeps me occupied, if you say roughly for like mostly for 6 months, but other 6 months I have leisure of doing other things as well, and that is how No Shortcuts happened. By the way, this is the book. So yeah, so I worked on it 2017, 2016, 17, and then 2018 is when it released. So because I've set up business like this is why I get time to do all these things, and I do value that kind of creative freedom. So I have not tried to make Scholar Strategy super intensively, scaling up and doing those kind of things, but that is something in the pipeline. We do
Okay,
more
so
to
are you planning to scale up Scholar
uh,
Strategy at this point of
yeah,
time?
yeah. So right now it's more of a consulting platform. We do have books in there that students can go through. So there are some products, but we are trying to make it more like a platform where more people can get a good career advice. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah.
So when you said you were involved in three other ventures before,
Yeah. Yeah.
what were the things that you learned from those ventures which you applied to Scholar Strategy, maybe, which
Right.
you learned from your previous experiences and
Yeah.
gave you that confidence key, okay, these are the things that I want to apply now. I don't want to spend a lot of time making mistakes with Scholar Strategy. What were
Yeah.
those things that you could tell us?
Right. So first thing I already told you from this fashion rental startup, that is find a domain that excites you.
Yeah,
So if you are feeling excited and passionate to work on a Monday morning, then you are in the right place. But if it's not happening, then that should tell you that are you really enjoying what you're doing? So don't do it just for the sake of that I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to do a startup.
yeah,
So just for the sake of it, if you're doing that, it's going to drain out energy from you eventually. So that was the first lesson, that find the problem which is right for you, because you will have to stick through it through thin and through like tough times, and you can do that only if you're truly passionate about the domain. So that
absolutely.
was the first lesson, and that worked for me in the Scholar Strategy, because sometimes it's like when Trump was elected, it was a very very tough time for people thinking of studying abroad, but
Yeah,
I was able to go through those low points because I enjoy this segment. I derive energy from talking to students and helping them find the right path for themselves.
yeah.
So this is what tells me that this is the right space for me. It makes me happy to work on it. So I think that's very important. Then when Fessy was not working up, I tried another idea, which was like landing pages, right? So I created a software to create very cool kind of landing pages,
Okay.
and I coded it myself. I put it on Hacker News. I got some comments. I was interacting with few people, and then I so it was slow, and I was like, is it going to work or not? I quit it in around 3 4 months. because I was not able to build a team. There,
Yeah.
my lesson is, I think, because I was so burnt from the first failure of FESC, that I quit this one too early. um, what I have realized is that if you're starting any venture, it's going to take minimum 2 years for you to
Okay.
know whether it's working or not. Like, of course, if you think you're in the right domain. And in a
Okay.
product based startup, it might even take 2 to 4 years, right? So you have to be patient for that. You have to keep solving problems. You may not see a initial catch up. There are phases. You might have seen those startup graphs which show early enthusiasm, then depression, then, like,
Yeah.
finding product market fit. So you have to kind of stay patient if you're trying something new. That was another lesson I think I learned from that. So I think after those two things, first of all, I matured up as an entrepreneur. Like, I know there are going to be always up and down times. Like, business
Yeah.
is very uncertain. Running a startup is an extremely tricky thing. So things are going to not be uniform all the time. So I'm kind of more mentally prepared for it now. I don't react as much to ups and downs as I used to do before. So I think every day you are learning a new lesson and applying it in your current venture. So, and plus I learned a lot from No Shortcuts people, right? I interviewed 15 founders,
It
and
must
that
have been
was
a great experience, I'm sure.
absolutely, yeah.
And I feel that, like, I am a baby compared to your startup experience, but what I have experienced in last 1.5 year, after
Mm-hmm.
I started my own entrepreneurship, is I have whatever I have learned, the most part of it I learned in last 1.5 year. My
Okay.
mental growth
Yeah.
and my lessons growth, learning lessons
Right.
growth, is
Right.
during last 1.5 year after I started something on my own. It
Okay.
could be one of the toughest time in your life, but it
Yes.
is the most important time also. That's what I
Right.
feel, because
Yeah,
you
and that's
grow
why you
during
are
that.
here, right? So yeah, I completely agree.
And what I would like to ask you is, yes, there are things that you want to work on your, like, products, for example,
Hmm.
you want to work on your products XYZ, but with being an entrepreneur or starting a new venture, there comes mental struggles,
Hmm.
which you are not always prepared for.
Yeah,
You
yeah, yeah.
There's a social pressure, peer pressure. Okay, you're not still financially settled,
Yeah.
uh, or if you decide ki, okay, this startup is not for me, I want to give it up and start something else, then there
Right.
is the criticism coming from everywhere. Oh, now you've wasted 2 years of your life, how can you give up?
Yes.
There are so many problems which come up with starting
Yes.
a new venture. So I would like to ask you, for me and of course people listening to us and watching us, how do you cope up with those struggles? What probably is your method to cope up with those mental struggles mainly?
Okay, so as I said, like, I came back in 2012, and, like, it took at least end of 2014 for Scholar strategy to stabilize, 2015 almost.
Yeah,
So those 3 years are when you're trying out different things. You have left a career and you have no paychecks, and, like, you are adamant that you don't want to go back to a job. So yes, absolutely, I understand the mental struggle part of it, because it's a conscious decision you have taken. You are
yeah,
trying to start something new, so there's no pressure on you. So you will always think that, like, we are always looking for external validation, that what are people thinking about us. And this is the horrible part of Indian society in particular, that we are a very competition exam oriented society, right?
absolutely,
And we are so unforgiving for failures and rejections, because we are
absolutely, I
always
agree.
seeing that competition from childhood, that the moment something is not going your way, you kind of, like, feel the earth is shattering away. And we don't teach our children how to deal with it.
Yeah,
So many people are absolutely, whether you're not the only one, I think everyone is going through the same phase, that it's a the biggest mental struggle you're going through is that fear of failure,
yeah,
that what will happen, like, how will society accept me. And in my case, it was even worse because I was also going through a breakdown in my relationship at the same time.
okay,
And I was trying to start up a startup, and, like, so it was everything coming in together. So that,
exactly.
Yeah, so that was like a period of amazing spiritual transformation for me. I was
I
like, you
I
have to.
absolutely agree with the word spiritual transformation, because
Yes.
that is what you
Yeah.
go through when you're
Right.
going through, tough times. That
Exactly.
is
Yeah.
exactly right.
It's totally that you're
Very
taking
true.
a leap of faith, and if you stick through it, and you will come out transformed no matter what. You're going to learn. So I'm not talking about your commercial success or failure, but you will
Yeah,
be learning so much about life, so much about yourself. So I'm a big believer in that, like, do try a startup because it makes you really know yourself so much.
absolutely. I'm like
So yeah.
100% I agree with you.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and only those people survive in that, and other people will cut it back and go back to a job, right? So the people
Yeah,
who are surviving are the ones who have gone through that transformation, and they
yeah,
understand that life is more than a paycheck, or life is more than a certain definition
absolutely.
of success and failure. So that
Right.
fear of failure, I think, eats at a lot of people. And secondly, I do believe that if you're not financially stable, the good thing in my case was I was financially pretty stable because of my
Okay.
savings from US. I was not feeling the pressure of like having to earn. I mean, for my own confidence, I did want to start earning, but it was like I still had some savings. In cases of people where they don't have that kind of financial cushion, then I can say be very, very careful and watchful, because there's a fine line and people start getting into depression if
Hmm.
they are in denial again, that, like, this thing is not working, I just need to give it more time. So there's a fine line there. So I would say everyone has to be very, very conscious that maybe it's not the right time for you to start up, and that's completely okay. So don't
Yeah,
pressurize yourself. If something is not working out, and if you need to take care of your family and do some other things, it's completely okay. So
yeah,
I think we as a society, if we can develop that mindset, not judging people and making our kids be more stronger to failures and accepting rejections, then I would really want to see that. And I
okay.
think what helps in this is create a very strong support ecosystem around you. Like, be in touch with your family and close friends. You don't have to listen to everyone, but some people who will be there for you, with whom you can really open your heart out. You can tell them that, hey, things are not going well,
Yeah,
and they can be there. Sometimes you all you need is just someone to listen. You are not even looking for a
absolutely.
solution. So I
Yeah,
think those are the kind of things that help, and reading books really helped me a lot.
okay.
Yeah.
So what kind of books did you read during that
I read
time?
Bhagavad Gita a lot
Oh
in
God.
that period,
No, but it's
okay?
fine. Bhagavad Gita it
Yeah,
teaches
so
you life lessons, right?
yeah, and
So,
actually my first novel is called Seven Conversations, and it is based on my interpretation of Gita.
okay.
So it's actually that journey of transformation that I'm talking about. It is a journey of that. So I really love that book. So I yeah. So what helps in whatever I wouldn't even call it failures, but whatever struggles you're going through, if you can put them into a creative outlet, I
Okay.
think that you can create something amazing in that time. Like, if you look at most genius directors or authors or something, they have actually transformed their pain into something meaningful. So
Yes.
you can look at it as a blessing in disguise, that life is giving you this chance to create your masterpiece out of your misery.
Wow. Okay. I like
So
that analogy
yeah,
a
so
lot.
totally, like, I totally believe in that. Then everyone not gets that chance. Like, people are living very mediocre lives, and they will never
Yes.
realize that they are not fulfilling their destiny. But if life is giving you that chance, then why not? Why not try to make something out of it? Is how I see it. So those kind of thoughts are very important. Like, if you
Yeah.
can
So
think positively and like that, it can be a truly transformational phase.
it depends on how you look at your struggle also. Do you look at it
Yeah,
as something that pulls you down, or do you look at it
absolutely.
that
Right.
brings you up? You know,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
uh, as an entrepreneur, we go through a lot of rejection. So
Mm-hmm.
we have to think, ki, are those rejection actually
Serving
shunting
a
you,
purpose.
or
Yeah, yeah,
are they motivating you
yeah,
basically to do
yeah,
something
yeah.
about it?
Yes,
Right?
yes.
So I'm still learning. I'm going through a lot. So
Yeah, no, no, you'll be
thank you so much
fine.
for
So
that answer.
yeah,
It's very,
once
very
you
pertinent
attach a
question for me.
once you attach a purpose to the pain actually goes away, and it becomes a
Yes,
infinite source of inspiration in your life.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Agreed.
yeah.
Agreed. Agreed.
Right.
So coming from very philosophical question to
Yeah.
again back to your book.
Hmm.
Um, um, no shortcuts.
Hmm.
I'm sure you had amazing experience compiling that book, and
Yeah.
I think all of us would like to know what the book is about and what was your experience when you were actually writing the book. What led you to write that piece,
Right. So
basically?
I would like to, yeah, start with answering that question in particular. That why did I write this book? So I'm an avid reader. That's fine, and I blog a lot. I had already published a book by then. But the main reason was that, like, I do feel, especially coming from US to India, and then struggling to start my own startups. I was
Mm-hmm.
constantly looking at resources of, like, why are some entrepreneurs more successful than others, right? And I was
Yeah,
looking for more resources about startups and all. And whenever you see books, because I learn a lot from books, so that is one of the channel that works for me. But
yeah,
whenever I used to try and read a book, most of the books are actually coming from the West. Like if you look at Lean Startup or 0 to 1 or
yeah,
those kind of books, they are all written with Western ecosystem in mind, Western founders in mind. So the finer points don't really apply to Indian market. So if I'm trying to build something in India, I wanted to see examples of how people build something in India.
yeah.
So then I came across this book called Founders at Work, which is written by Jessica Livingston, who is one of the partners of Y Combinator. She's also wife of Paul Graham. So, and then Paul Graham, right? Yeah. So I read that book, and it had like 30 or 35 interviews of entrepreneurs from US, and that included founders of Apple like Steve Wozniak, Hotmail, PayPal, and all those places. And what I loved about the book was that it was talking about core things of a startup. It was not written by a journalist. It was not trying to make it a story. It was very, very core business questions they had asked. So I was like, hey,
Yeah.
this book should exist for India. And since it was not there, so I thought I'll do it myself. And I did not know what would come out of it. So I started just approaching people. Sometimes I got references, sometimes it was just cold email. I started writing to these founders that, look, this is who I am, and I feel that Indian entrepreneurs need this kind of a book, and I want to write this. This is my
Yeah.
background. Let me know if you would let me interview you. And so yeah, once you get yeses from one or two good people, I still remember Girish Matrabhutam from Freshworks is one of the first guys to say yes, you can interview me. So that was a big confidence booster. And then from there, then Jaydeep from Fasos said yes. So I kept contacting people, and I was amazed at, like, even people were responding on cold emails. They said yes, and so I began interviewing them. So we recorded audio interviews, and
Okay.
it was pretty intensive because these people are so busy. So to coordinate a time with them, then calling them, then transcribing the whole thing, then showing them that, hey, can you verify this information, and then compiling that, turning it into a story, was obviously, so that all process took a time of 2 years, but it was so much worth it. And the only reason I was doing it, I did not know it would be successful or not. You have no way of finding that out.
Yeah.
My first book was pretty indie kind of a book. It was a very, like, I did not do much marketing on it. It was a pretty small book. In this case also, I did not know. I knew it's a mainstream topic, but I did not frankly know that it would do well. The only reason I was doing it, I was enjoying doing it. I was
Yeah.
like, whatever happens, I am learning so much from these interviews,
Yes.
from these people, and I'm enjoying the process. So that's another lesson, like, do something because you enjoy doing it,
Enjoy learning. Yes, of course.
not for the end goal, because that's not in your hands. But if you're enjoying the journey, then it will be worth it.
Yeah.
So that's how the book came to be, and then even everyone was surprised actually how well it did. And we did put a lot of efforts this time. So the fact that it became a bestseller, I think I did put a lot of marketing lessons from these founders into marketing the book itself. So I think that kind of validates the advice that's in the book. Yeah, it would be pretty sad, right, if the book came out and no one was reading it. Like, this advice
But
really sucks.
no, I am sure that, like you said, a lot of people are
Yeah.
actually reading it because I think the startup system and ecosystem is still growing in
Yes,
India
yes. Yeah.
exponentially, and more people are actually interested in knowing the stories
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
startups. So this
Right.
is, I think, you've done fantastic job of
Thank you.
children. It's just
Yeah,
brilliant that you wrote a book. It's hard to write a book,
right, right.
maybe not for you, but for
Yeah,
many other people.
yeah.
So thank you so much for writing the book, I would say.
Thank you so much for
Um,
putting it that way. Yeah, it really means a lot. Yeah.
yeah. So during the book, how long did you said 2 years, right?
2 years. So
2 years.
roughly like 1 year to just like do the interviews and all,
Yeah.
coordinating with different people and all. Then other 1 year was simply on finding the publisher. So earlier I wanted to publish it as raw transcripts of the interviews because I felt
Okay.
like there was so much gem of information in there. But then like the publisher was that this is Indian market, we should make it smaller, we should make it like a story and all those things. So I had to really almost rewrite the whole thing
Okay.
in a story format. Earlier book was like 1.5 times as much as this final book, so it was really long. I had to cut it down, and so all that time really took another year for the book to hit the market.
So during your research, you spoke to founders of startups from IT, engineering, online trading,
Right.
food, education, journalism.
Yeah.
What were those do's and don'ts that you learned from them, which
Yeah.
today's startup ecosystem can actually apply when they are uh, starting their
Right.
own companies?
Right. So I did. So after every interview, when I was compiling the book, I have done a key takeaway section after every interview to
Yeah.
kind of summarize the major lessons coming out of it. That how did those people tackle the challenges in marketing? How did they think about fundraising? How did they develop their product to be so good? So I did that, and so there are different lessons coming in each thing. But few things I noticed was that the biggest thing was that they defied a lot of conventional wisdom. For example, I know a lot of newbie entrepreneurs do swear by lean startups. They read
Hmm.
that concept and they are like, hey, this makes sense, lean startup. But I think from many of the stories, it comes that lean startup may not be the way to go.
Okay.
um, and one particular, so there is out of 15 stories, there is one failure story in there, which is
Okay.
super interesting. One of the first the first Indian guy who got into Y Combinator, actually he created a social media startup called Like a Little, and it's the only failure story in the book. It's a brilliant story, and the guy kind of shows, his example shows that why lean startups don't work.
Hmm.
So stuff like that. So I noticed that okay, some people did follow lean startup to some extent, a part of their business, but many of the people were not following lean startups. And they did not. They said that probably doesn't make sense. When you're actually doing the business, you will realize that lean startups doesn't make sense.
Okay.
So I saw that many of these conventional myths that we have about startups don't actually hold true. uh,
Okay.
then I was trying to summarize and compile that, hey, what's the lesson eventually from these all these interviews? What am I going to tell a aspiring entrepreneur that do this and you will be successful? And I realized that the book was full of contradictions. Someone had raised money, the Zerodha has till date not raised money, and they are the biggest brokerage firm now. So there was no way to reconcile all that. So my only conclusion from that was that actually there is no shortcut in the world of
Hmm.
startups. There is not, and you should not try to follow or emulate someone, because the timing was different for different people, the market situation was different, and they took different decisions. So you will
Yeah.
have to figure your own path to success. There is no doubt in it, and that's why I love the name no
No
shortcuts. That
shortcuts.
actually came from there only, that you can't follow a framework. There's no framework for finding the success. All you can do is read these stories, see what kind of decisions did these people take. Maybe
Yeah.
you will be able to identify some situation which is similar to yours and kind of find inspiration that this is also how I can think about it. But more than that, you have to find your own path to glory.
Yeah.
So I have completely refrained from coming up with a framework or telling people what to do. I have tried to just show them these stories so that read it, interpret it from where you are, and take out whatever lessons you want to take out.
Okay. And while we are talking about, lessons learned, I would like to ask if there's other side of startup also. There are too many people's coming in giving you advices.
Right. Oh,
That
yeah.
also happens.
Yes.
So what is your take on that? And should we actually go and ask for advice, or should we just do what we want and then learn from it? So what
Right.
is your take on that?
Right. So again, there's no right or wrong answer. What I do not agree with is definitely media glamorizing the whole concept of fundraising too much.
Yeah.
Because for one thing, many new entrepreneurs are thinking that fundraising is equivalent to success of startup. No, you may raise funds, and the failure story I'm telling you raised a lot of money, and it had a buy offer from Facebook for $50 million or something like that. It declined it, and then it failed later on. So just raising money is not does not tell you that you're going to be successful, right? So those kind of, when that glamorization happened in the media, it's a bit unfortunate, because it leads people away from thinking about core business model to thinking about other things which can be distracting. But that said, frankly, talking to entrepreneurs does make sense. You do learn a lot from them. You have to be discerning enough in knowing what applies to you and what does not apply to you. You can try
Okay.
out things, but you have to be smart enough that this is where I want to listen to someone, and this is now time where I don't want to listen to someone. I have to follow my gut. And again, another example, you have heard of Ather Energy, I believe, the
Yes.
electric scooter company, right?
Yes.
So Tarun, I've interviewed Tarun Mehta, and they are guys from IIT Madras. And he said that it helped that we were putting our head down. We had gone to IIT Madras, that is where we were developing the vehicle, and we were not in Bangalore, so all this startup noise did not reach us. We were putting our head down and focusing on building a vehicle. So at that point, it was important for them to not listen to the noise and do what they think needs to be done. And sometimes the ecosystem helps you, as it has in the case of Unacademy. So as I again told you will see all kind of approaches working for different kind of people. So you have to understand who you are. I have only one advice: people should really introspect who you are,
Hmm.
what kind of personality you have, what kind of domains will excite you more, what is your expertise area, and what is it that you don't know. So many people don't realize that this is what I don't know. Another example is Aspiring Minds. You have heard of AMCAT probably. So,
Yes. Yes.
right?
Yes.
AMCAT. So that is the product of Aspiring Minds. So I have interviewed Varun Agarwal, who is the MIT based scientist. He's the CTO of the company. And so he is coming from a very academic background. So he knew when he started a company that I don't understand sales. I don't understand marketing. So he partnered with his brother, Himanshu, who is handling the business side now. So once you acknowledge that, hey, this is something I don't know, you are open to learning it. But
Yeah.
lot of founders make the mistake that they don't even acknowledge what they don't know. Lot of engineers, they are good at building products, but frankly, you don't understand how to market. So it's okay.
Yes.
Either learn that or partner with someone who can do that.
Yeah.
So
My next question was going to be on the same
okay,
lines, because
yeah,
when you're starting something, you have budget limitations, right?
yes.
So how much important it is to invest that limited budget into marketing, because uh, it is important. I feel that you need to reach people also.
Right, right.
So according to you, is it important when initially is it important to put in money and to know about your customers, or you can do it at a later stage?
So I think there I feel that if you are constrained financially, then a good thumb rule works. Find a group of, like, a small group for which you build the product, and make sure that the product works extremely well for this particular group. So rather than, don't target everyone from day one. You have to
Okay.
understand that who is your primary target audience. Work with them, take feedback from them extensively. They could come from your friends and family group, or you have to go and find those people out and take feedback from them. So don't if you don't have money, spending on marketing the first thing is probably not a good idea.
Okay.
So you try to move slowly to the product market fit, and once you have achieved the product market fit, then yes, then you should pump money, then you should try to scale it soon. But until you have gotten there, there is no point in just putting a lot of money if you don't have it. Some people have it, and then it can help you quickly validate something, maybe.
Okay.
But if you don't have, it's okay. You can you will have to be creative, because these are constraints. So constraints force creativity. When you don't have something, you will have to figure out ways on how to make it work without that. And
Yeah.
people have done it. So again, if you go through the case studies in the book, people have tried out different ideas on how they got their first 100 customers, for example. So you can see a different pattern there. So no, if you don't have too much money, then I wouldn't say that you have to spend too much on marketing, the first thing.
And you have spoken to these entrepreneurs and you have your own company now. How important is to build a team around your product or your company, which fits into,
Right.
you know, your concept? How important it
Yes.
is to have team members?
It is pretty important. The first itself, I think, being a solo founder itself is pretty challenging, and I know that I face it every day. And if given a choice, I would like to have a co-founder from day one, because it just makes your life easier in the sense that you can brainstorm when things are not going well. You can have someone else's opinion when you are in a dilemma situation. So it really does make your life much more simpler if you have the right co-founder, and that is highlighted in so many of these stories in the book as well. Apart from that, I think then team building is a very tricky thing. Very few people are good at it, because not everyone is good at delegating and getting someone else to do the work. So it's always a tricky thing. And again, like different stories show that they made mistakes. Almost everyone made hiring mistakes, and that's the part of it. You do it, you learn from it, you experiment something, then you know what's going to work for you. But it's good to build a team. Without a team, it can be extremely challenging. You will never be able to grow and scale beyond a point if you don't build a team.
Cool. So I think from uh, talking about startups to now, I would like to shift a little bit and talk more about women entrepreneurs,
Okay.
because we are in India
Right.
and we are in a society where women are not, according to me, are not that open to coming into or starting something on their own. Yes, they
Hmm.
have, many of them have household,
Small
businesses,
businesses kind of thing.
small
Yeah. Yeah.
businesses. But when we talk about startups, I immediately think about engineering, management,
Yeah.
STEM field basically.
Right.
But you don't see many women coming into those kind of startups. So, what is
Hmm.
your take on women entrepreneurs in India right now? What is the trend that you see? Are there more women coming, or is it the same as before? Has the mindset changed at all?
Hmm. So I mean, yeah, so when I was interviewing or trying to find entrepreneurs for my book, I was like, I want few more women entrepreneurs in there. There is only one woman entrepreneur featured in there. So I completely get your point. I did try to find it. I did not get many people. Some people did not respond, reply to my emails, or some people did not end up doing it. So yes, I had a lot of trouble finding more women entrepreneurs, which I hope will not be a case if I decide to write another book. So probably it's increasing, but it's still pretty low, I would say. So I recently did a startup talk at IIT Mumbai, where I was interviewing women entrepreneur on the panel, and I was interviewing two of them, and both of them were super smart. So we all agree that, like, in terms of capability or talent, there is not an issue. Indian women are right out there, and frankly, they are actually genetically more entrepreneurial than men, because they are juggling so many things in household and
Yes.
everything. So they are by default actually very good entrepreneur. But what they are probably is not aiming as high. They are probably happier running a small business kind of a setup, which is why you don't see many of them on the main platform, but they are doing it in their own ways. So I think there would be some more time before we see a lot of that, but we are hearing more and more stories. Like, I am hearing that from VCs also. VCs I talk to, like, so Rehan from Horizon Venture Partner is is the one who wrote a foreword for my book, and he was telling that in his portfolio he does have some women led startups. So it's happening, but yes, it's like very far and few in between. So
Why do you think that is? We both are women entrepreneurs, so we
yeah.
can be brutally honest about
Yeah.
this. So why do you think that women are lacking in terms of entrepreneurship or startup
I
ventures?
think it's a lot to do with our traditional upbringing in India. That, like, women are more inclined towards sacrificing themselves for the family at some point. So, but a man will not probably even think about it. I'm not at all judging here, by the way, but it's just how we as a society think. That thing is slowly changing, because now we are seeing more women fighting for equality or even equal payrolls and all. But so it will take some time, but hopefully as education pierces through the society and people are able to women are able to like get better jobs or see that actually the job is not doing a justice to them, they can do something else. So I
Yeah.
think that will happen. So it's a lot with Indian mindset as well, but this is not just an Indian thing, it's totally happening in US as well.
Okay,
Maybe the
I actually did not expect
percentage,
that that would be the same case in US in terms of,
yeah, maybe the
because
percentage is not same, but definitely like there's a gap between women entrepreneur and men entrepreneur. Even in terms of, I think, funding, VCs are sometimes more wary of investing in a women led
yes,
startup. That we saw in the case of SlideShare, which is again featured in the book, and its CEO is a woman, and they said that yes, we had trouble finding investors for our startup.
I see the same thing. I gave a talk, TED talk on women's sports
Mm-hmm.
in India, and I did a research on women's sports while I was doing MBA, and I had to travel around India to see, how does it work? What
Yeah.
what do women do? And one thing that I observed during that research is I think women are the first obstacle to our own progress, is
Hmm.
what I feel. Ki, lot of women want to do a lot of things,
Hmm.
but somewhere they don't.
Hmm.
They, I think, yeah, yes, we can say social pressures, traditions,
Right.
yes, they are there, but I think that those are, according to me, just excuses
Yeah,
for
more of a
not
mindset
trying hard.
problem. Yeah.
Yeah, for everybody has to go through tough time, man or a woman.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think going beyond giving excuses, we should try harder. Like you are trying harder, you have done it well. I am trying harder, and it's not very different for from what men are doing.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
go
yeah,
through
yeah.
the same process, same
Yes.
struggles. Where I feel that we lack a little bit is we give up very fast.
Give up
That's
soon.
what I
We feel it's our responsibility to sacrifice at this point. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So that was my observation. I'm sure that
yeah,
yours could be a little different or same. Um, but
yeah.
what I would like to ask you is what can we do as women entrepreneurs to
Mm-hmm.
encourage more women into startup ecosystem? What do you
Okay.
think we can do
So,
together?
Vaidehi, if you give me just a minute, I'll have to
Yes,
plug in my phone. I don't
absolutely.
want it to die. Just a second. Yeah, sorry, guys. So, women entrepreneurs, it's a tricky subject, and sometimes I also feel that maybe we don't have to think of it like as a distinction or something, like, because as you said, I mean, men are also like facing almost the same challenges and all. So
Yeah.
eventually I do believe that yes, it's a mindset problem, and slowly women are going to accept the fact that they are running the household on pretty equal terms, and they have a lot of talent for running a business, and why shouldn't they? So eventually they'll start opening up more, and hopefully the society will also start accepting it more. But other than that, I don't want to make it a gender kind of a issue. I feel like that's going to trivialize it. It's not required. Like, anyone goes through same kind of odds in facing a business, in starting up a business. Odds are against men also, against you also.
Yes.
So I would say, just like, don't even think of it like a man versus women thing if you're starting up. And that is something Ritu from Obino also said. She started a weight loss app that has been acquired. So she was talking about her journey, and she said, like, so okay, so even if you think that being a woman is some kind of a disadvantage, it is there. You can't change it now. So
Yes.
what you have to think of is, it is another problem. It is another hurdle that is in front of you. How do you overcome it?
Yeah.
So find your own ways. There are so many other problems that you're facing in startup anyway, and it's about solving those problems. So this is one more
Absolutely.
problem that you solve it. If an investor is not investing in you, go and find some other investor. It's like
Absolutely.
that. Yeah, yeah. So don't stop. Don't give up, and don't think that you cannot succeed, because that's truly not the case.
Okay, it makes total
Yeah,
sense because
yeah,
I feel the same way. Don't look at it from like a gender issue point of
yeah,
view.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
look at it from you want to do something, just go do it,
Go for
and
it. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
only just a part of a problem
Bigger,
that you're
bigger
going to
scheme of
face.
things. True, true.
Absolutely. Last question, but I
Mm-hmm.
feel that important one. If given a choice,
Mm-hmm.
will you go through the same struggles again?
Oh yeah, 1,000% yes. I mean, I'm a person who believes in, I don't know. I think I was posting on Instagram about this thing, and I was like, okay, let's like, my thoughts on how to live a life of no regrets. So I
Yeah,
completely believe in that. I don't believe in having any regrets in life. Every decision I've taken is was the best decision I could have taken at that point. Yes, you don't know how things will unfold, but you
yeah.
don't want to play too cautious either. I mean, you are
Don't
not going
take
to
life
take.
too seriously.
Yeah, I mean, like, at the end of the day, you don't want to look back at your life and say that yes, you were safe and secure. So I'm the person who does a lot of solo travel, and
Yeah, me too.
okay, cool. So I got, like, I have some scars on my leg from some stupid, like, travel fiascos and all. I was like, I love those scars, like, it's better than wrinkles on your face, and they are
Yes,
telling that you led a too secure, too safe a life. So I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty happy with all my decisions. Yeah.
good. Because the reason I asked you this question was because I was just sitting and thinking last year, entire last year,
Mm-hmm.
and there were more downs than
Hmm.
ups. So I
I,
was, would I go through this again? And the
right.
answer, my own answer to myself was yes, I would. I
Yeah.
would do this
Yeah.
again
Cool.
because the things that you learn from, starting
Yeah.
something on your own and going through the journey are irreplaceable. You don't
Yes.
learn those things on job or when
Right.
you're working for somebody else. So I
Right.
would, yes. So that is
So we are
something
on
that,
same page on that.
yeah,
Yeah.
same page, same page.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, great. I mean, Nisha, it has been great talking to you.
No,
Some
thank you so much. I really enjoyed this, and I would love to catch up with you later on also. It's
Absolutely, we
like,
would.
yeah, yeah,
We are already connected, so I'm
yeah.
definitely, you're a solo travel, I'm a solo traveler, so that is something we can definitely connect on, and it has been a pleasure hosting you. I would like to thank you for spending almost 1 hour with us,
Yes.
and thank you Startup Byte for letting me host you also. It has been pleasure and it has been a great discussion. I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
make keep it as a discussion rather than kind of interview.
Yeah, Q&A kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was fun. I hope that everybody who's watching us, they had a lot of fun. They took away insights from your experiences as well.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Yeah.
I think Megha, maybe you can take over now. That'll be good.
Yeah, let me just say thanks to, again, to the Startup
Please,
Byte
please,
team.
please.
I really love what they're doing, and whether it was absolutely pleasure to talk to you, and I really admire not only just like entrepreneurs in general, because I know the struggles everyone is going through. You are fighting against the odds. You're like a gladiator in life, and like, I truly respect all entrepreneurs, and especially women entrepreneurs, as you said. So I'm sure you're going to do great, and we are going to hear from you more in future. So yeah, thanks
Absolutely.
guys. Thanks for giving me this
Thank you
platform.
so
It's been
much.
absolute
Thanks a
pleasure.
lot.
Yeah. Thanks,
Thank
Megha.
you so much. Great.